Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
One of the greatest NFL rushing seasons of all time was one of my favorite football moments. Back in 1997, Barry Sanders had an incredible 2,053 yards. What makes this more impressive is he only had 53 yards in his first 2 games. This means that he rushed for 2,000 yards in only 14 games.
Welcome to the Football History Dude podcast, where each episode is a journey back in time to learn about the rich history of the NFL. Your host is Arnie Chapman. Football is his passion, and he wants you to come along with him to explore the yesteryear of the gridiron. So hop on board his DeLorean and let's get this baby up to 88 miles per hour.
Great Scott!
This time as we step off our DeLorean, we are at a bus stop. Now this bus stop might be in the middle of nowhere, or maybe it's in the middle of everywhere. Because this episode, we get to have favorite football moments and stories, personal football stories told by people from around the globe. Now, I've been doing the Football History Dude for 10 episodes, and I hope that you've been able to enjoy all of them. And this is going to be the second time where we're going to hear personal stories from different kind of listeners of the show. You see, I've had a lot of fun doing this. I mean, it's been pretty cool listening to everything that people have sent to me as far as their personal stories and things that I can relate to. But I've also had a lot of fun just basically researching the NFL. I mean, straight up, man. There's so many things that in the past 2 months, I had no clue. I didn't even know who most of these guys were. I didn't know their names. I didn't know what they did. I had no understanding of what these incredible individuals had done for us back in the day for us to be able to watch this great game of the NFL today. So this is one of those moments where if I had a hat on, I'm taking it and I'm putting it towards the sky and I'm saying, tipping my hat to you guys. Thank you very much. But you didn't come here to listen to me this time. You want to listen to the stories of the listeners of the show, just like we did back in episode 6. But before we get into the stories for this episode, I wanted to remind you that it is super easy for you to be able to share your story with all the listeners of this show. All you have to do is head over to myfootballmoment.com, where I give you 2 different ways where you can submit your story. But with no further ado, let's go ahead and get into this week's My Football Moments from the listeners of the show. The first one comes from Roy over at Sports Perspective Podcast. It's going to be a little bit short, but it is definitely a play that all of us that are listening to this episode have to remember. Now, Roy used the speak pipe option on myfootballmoment.com. So, it's a super easy way to do it. Just head on over there. There's going to be this little orange icon with like a little microphone deal, and it's going to basically say, mash this button, and all you got to do is start recording. You can even do it through your smartphone. You don't have to have a separate app. You can do it right through the webpage. But now that I got that out of the way, let's go ahead and listen to Roy's cool story about his favorite football moment.
Hello, my name is Roy from the Sports Perspective Podcast, and my favorite moment of football is the Malcolm Butler interception to help the Patriots win the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. That was a really amazing play. Didn't expect it to happen, but it was pretty cool. All right, thank you very much.
So yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this remembers that play. It was like, hey, we talked about Beastquake and Bronco Nagurski back a few episodes ago. basically Bronco being the precursor to Beastquake. It's like, dude, you have this guy that is pretty much unstoppable, and you get all fancy and cute and everything. You know, I'm going to take this ball and I'm going to toss it to this guy and then it gets intercepted. Dude, you have Beast Mode, who single-handedly caused your fans to generate seismic activity on the Richter scale. Hand that man the ball. What are you doing? What are you thinking? But I'm not going to let myself get stressed out about it or anything, or get my knickers in a twist or pretzel or, Catmandu, or I don't know what it's called. But what I'm saying is, why didn't they just hand him the ball? So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and chill back, and we're going to move on to the next story. And this comes from a dude over at the Rams Talk podcast, and his name is Derek. He talks about a couple different moments, which is cool. That's totally part of the rules. So go ahead, sit back and enjoy.
Well, my name is Derek Ciapala. I am the managing editor and podcast host over at Rams Talk Radio. And, well, I have two memories. I have two memories here that are very special to me over many, many years of really, really bad football when it comes to the Rams franchise. The first one is the one that's more recent. It's the Super Bowl 34 year. And in particular, Super Bowl 34, it winds up being one of the better Super Bowls in history. It really shouldn't have been. The Rams were dominant for 3 quarters of that game. It really should have been a blowout. But the Titans were tough. They stuck with it. It came back and tied this game at 16-16. Then two really amazing things happened. The first one is that touchdown bomb from Kurt Warner to Isaac Bruce. It's just beautiful, just gone. And all of a sudden, it looks like the Rams have a Super Bowl victory. It's 23-16. But that Rams defense that night, man, they were tired. They were really just gone. The Titans had worn them down, especially in that fourth quarter. And Steve McNair just brought them down the field. It was depressing to watch. And I was thinking, okay, this here's going to be our first overtime Super Bowl. And then you see Kevin Dyson catches the football, runs up the middle, and Mike Jones comes in and stuffs Dyson just before the goal line to preserve the Super Bowl victory, and the Rams win their first and only Super Bowl in history. So that was the really special one for me. And before that, there was also the Flipper Anderson game. Back in November 1989, the Rams were fighting for a playoff berth. They were on the road Sunday Night Football. I was a child, 11 years old. And I've been addicted to Rams football my entire life. But this is one of my most hopeless moments watching the game because the Rams were down 17-3. They were playing a very, very good Saints team. And it felt like this is it. This is the Rams season. No playoffs, no nothing. And Jim Everett, Flipper Anderson, they combine to put on a show late in that game. In the end, Flipper Anderson winds up catching 15 passes for 336 yards. The Rams come back and win this game in overtime, 20-17. I can't even... what do you even say to that? He breaks the record. Flipper Anderson breaks the record for receiving yards in the game. This is not Art Monk. It's not Jerry Rice. It's not Marvin Harrison who holds the record. It's not Calvin Johnson or Des Bryant. It's none of these guys. It's Willie Flipper Anderson. And it's just one of those special moments as a kid. A kid that's growing up watching the game, and I'm the only Rams fan in my house. Seeing that happen is really special. It's something you gravitate to. I can't tell you how often I was made fun of for being a Rams fan because I lived in Northeast Ohio. But little memories like that went a long way. So those are my two memories. And hopefully we keep seeing more memories come up down the line.
I don't know about you, but I thought that was definitely a super cool moment for him. It kind of reminded me of, Calvin Johnson when he basically just blew the top off against the Cowboys, and I was able to watch it next to a Cowboys fan, which made it a little bit sweeter and everything. But that's cool, man. You thought you were totally down, chips are off the river, and you got this dude, Flipper Anderson, like you said, just some random guy. and he is the one that broke that record. So that's pretty cool, man. And if any of you want to go ahead and listen to the Rams Talk podcast hosted by him, I would head on over to ramstalk.net. Or you can go ahead and hit him up at Twitter as well. His handle is at DCIAPALA. But don't worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and leave links for all of these guys in the show notes. So this next one is going to be a little bit of Dave Jackson, but mostly the purpose is for Jim Collison. Now, I pulled this from a clip for the Ask the Podcast Coach, which is a coaching session for anyone out there that wants to learn how to podcast or wants to make their podcast grow or anything like that. Every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, you can head over to askthepodcastcoach.com. It's a free service where you can just basically, it's like you're sitting around together, eating your cereal and stuff, Saturday morning, talking podcast. And there's some other stuff I'm going to cover a little bit later, but I recommend you go to askthepodcastcoach.com. And here is that small clip from the show.
Arnie, right? Arnie from the football.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm horrible with names. I'm surprised I pulled that out of my butt because I already did one. But do you have a favorite football moment?
My all-time favorite football moment goes way back into the 80s when Joe Montana threw a touchdown pass to Dwight Clark back of the end zone against the Dallas Cowboys to win the division championship, which sent them to the Super Bowl, first ever for the 49ers, and they won, of course. So that one sticks. That's a huge, famous moment in football, and a big one for me. I watched that live.
Yeah, that's. I already told him. I gave him mine. I said, I live in near Cleveland, so sports is just a sore spot. But I used to watch Bernie Kosar and Brian Sipe when they were the Cardiac Kids, and they would always come back in the fourth quarter. Bernie Kosar had the mobility of a telephone pole
of concrete.
Yeah. So, but if you gave him a good offensive line, he'd pick you apart.
I don't know. I thought that was cool that he was able to see his team win their first Super Bowl. Now, I'm a Lions fan, and I'm still kind of waiting for that. I'll be taking my time machine back to, the 50s and stuff, and we're going to go ahead and learn about some of those kind of championships. But I want an NFL championship that is called a Super Bowl. I don't want it just to have the NFL championship without those two words on the end. So, let's get that done this year. But for me, the other part was I cracked up when he said Bernie Kosar had the mobility of a telephone pole. I don't know why, it just cracked me up. And if you want to see more from Jim Collison, he's at theaverageguy.tv. Super cool guy, been in podcasting forever, provides a lot of information to you. As does this next guy I'm going to talk about. His name is Dave Jackson. He is the host of that previous podcast I talked about, Ask the Podcast Coach, but more so, he is the host of the School of Podcasting, which is definitely a huge contributor for the reason why I was able to start this podcast. I mean, he is very good at not just giving you information that definitely is relatable, but it is just the stories and the entertainment that he provides to you. I mean, it's something I definitely recommend you do. And then later on, I'm going to show you how to, get on the fast track to go ahead and starting your podcast through Mr. Dave Jackson. So, without further ado, here is his story.
Hey, Arnie, it's Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, so we followed the Cleveland teams. And so back then, 1980, I am probably 15-ish, and that's when the Cardiac Kids with Brian Sipe, Ozzie Newsome, Mike Pruitt, and these guys would get behind the game, and somehow they would just pull it out at the end. That was so much fun to watch. They were never out of the game, so you watched every single game. We fast forward to 1987, still kind of the Cardiac Kids, Bernie Kosar, Webster Slaughter. Come on, how can you not? Just the name alone, Webster Slaughter, Ernest Biner. Yes, he had the fumble, but whatever. The guy was still a great back. Kevin Mack, Brian Brennan was like Mr. Third Down. Gerald McNeil was like the cube. The guy couldn't catch the guy on punt returns. Then you had Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield on defense, who basically invented the dog pound. And again, another phenomenal team just to watch. Bernie was interesting because he had the mobility of a telephone pole, but he had such a great offensive line that he would just sit back there and pick you apart. And then when you have Mack and Biner, you've got to watch the run, which then frees up the pass. And so it was just a great team to watch. We were, two yards away from going to the Super Bowl, but those are probably my favorite moments. Since then, obviously, Cleveland has moved to Baltimore. They came back. They're horrendous. We hired douchebags like Johnny Manziel. And I probably shouldn't say this I don't watch football anymore. I watch in the playoffs and when things start to get exciting. But in general, just being a Cleveland sports fan, except for the Cavs occasionally, it's a pretty rough ride because the Indians always do good and fall apart in the playoffs. But when I think of fun times with sports, the Cardiac Kid days of the Cleveland Browns was always a great time to watch football.
First of all, Dave, I can totally relate. I'm a Lions fan and you're a Browns fan, so I don't think anyone needs to connect the dots about, between the two of us, 0-32. But we always play each other in the preseason, so you better watch out. The thing that also kind of reminded me of, the Lions and stuff like that and the Browns or whatever, he talked about the Cardiac Kids. And it reminded me of the term that they used to always call the Lions, which they kind of still are. They're the Cardiac Cats with Mr. Matthew Stafford. Just like he said about Kozar, picking you apart. Stafford's not really like telephone pole and everything, but Stafford just has that swagger confidence, and I'm just willing to toss that zinger rock, the Duke, into any spot on the field. So kind of like the same thing. The comeback kid, the comeback cat, cardiac cat, whatever you want to call it. But beyond that, Dave made me just crack up when he goes, yeah, we signed these douchebags like Johnny Manziel and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It was just funny the way he just put it, which is true. I mean, you did kind of draft a guy that shouldn't have been drafted that high considering he's got all those upstairs problems going on and everything. But if you want to go ahead and find Dave Jackson, you can hit him up on Twitter, and he's got, at Dave Jackson or also at School of Podcasting. But I highly recommend, if you're even thinking or hinting about wanting to start your own podcast, head over to schoolofpodcasting.com. And you don't have to do it this way, but if you want to go ahead and sign up for any of his courses or memberships or mentoring or any of that type of stuff, I do have an affiliate link that you can go through the show notes, which is thefootballhistorydude.com/episode 11. You can also find different kind of links to his service over at my About page on thefootballhistorydude.com. But I also have different kind of resources like my hosting and, where I got my artwork and all sorts of things. Like I said, totally up to you, but if you want to help support the show, I would definitely appreciate if you went through the affiliate link over there. And if you need help, go ahead, hit me up. Of course, I'm going to send you the link, you know what I mean? Moving forward, let's get into what is going to be a lengthy story, but it has a lot of cool golden nuggets. And this is the first international football history dude superstar, we'll call him. This is a story from a dude over in Germany that, if he didn't send the pictures and the video to kind of back his stuff up, I would be like, scratch my head. That's kind of unbelievable, dude. But I do believe him. And here's his story.
My favorite football moment. Ich bin Tim, ich bin aus Deutschland und ich soll ein bisschen darüber erzählen, was so mein Lieblings-Football-Moment ist. But don't worry, I will not keep on going in German. So my name is Tim. I'm the chairman of the German Titans, a German fan club of the Tennessee Titans, obviously. And we're established in January 2018, and we're 30 members at the moment. Thanks, Arnie, aka the Football History Dude, for having me on this podcast. And now we're gonna start with mein Lieblings-Football-Moment. So how do I start and wrap everything up before I come to the end? Back then in the mid-90s, Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers were a great team. And Brett Favre was the guy who inked me a little bit with football. So like everywhere in Europe, real football where you play ball with the foot is more common than American football. So in the beginning, it was not a big deal for me, American football, but every now and then I was watching a little bit. And in 98, I went to Nashville to vacation, and because I got family there. So we were driving around town, and there was a big construction site. I was like, what's that? They were like, that's the Philadelphia Coliseum. now known as Nissan Stadium. Last year, a football team relocated from Houston to Tennessee, the Tennessee Oilers. Last year they played at Memphis. This year they're gonna play at Vanderbilt, and next year they're gonna start it here. So before the '98 campaign, I found my team, the Tennessee Oilers. So they bought me a hat and everything, and yeah, then football became a big deal for me. In the 99 season, the Music City Miracle and the Super Bowl run, where I was grinding in the morning at 5 a.m. German time because of 1 yard short, Kevin Dyson. That's how everything started. So, I've been to Nashville in 98, 2003, 2008, and 2011. So I've been to Nashville 4 times. Every time it was in summer, so no football season, and I was in front of Nissan Stadium every time. I was like, one time I gotta get in there. I gotta watch a game, a Tennessee Titans game. So in the spring of 2016, my best friend called me. He was like, "Hey, you gotta come to Orlando." I was like, "Why?" He was like, "You gotta be my best man at my wedding." I was like, "Oh, okay. For sure, I will." And I was like, when is gonna be the wedding held? He was like, it's going to be in November. I was like, November? It's football season. Oh yeah. So after the schedule release, I was checking it. I saw, okay, they're gonna play at home against the Packers. So my Tennessee Titans against the Green Bay Packers, the team that brought me to football, a perfect combination. Like a Cinderella story. So, yeah, if they would have played in San Francisco, I would have gone there, no matter what. But Nashville, again, Packers, free accommodation, everything. I was like, hell yeah. So yeah, after the wedding, on Thursday, I flew to Nashville, and Saturday was the beginning of a fabulous weekend. Why? Because before that, in the summer, I was like, okay, let's go. Let's have pen and paper, set up a text, create a letter, and send it to the Tennessee Titans. So I was like, "Dear Mrs. Amy Adams Trunk," she's a part owner of the Titans and the controlling owner. I was writing, "It's the first time for me coming to Nashville to see a Titans game. I was in front of the stadium 4 times before. I'm a huge fan since '98. Blah, 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 blah." And I didn't expect nothing. But I think about 3 weeks later, I received an answer. And since then, I have her private address, and sometimes we're sending letters back and forth. So she's a little bit my writing buddy. Yeah, so she came back to me with, "Hey, it's great to have fans in Germany who come an extra over the pond to see us play. That's amazing. And I hope you will have a great weekend. And for the first time, we're doing something special." Special? Okay. What does it mean? Okay, great. So I haven't heard from her after that. But 4 weeks before the game, I received the email. Not from her, from her other employee of the Titans. And she was like, "Hey Tim, Amy contacted me. She was like, you're getting some special treatment for the weekend. You're allowed to come to practice the Saturday before the game." I was like, "Serious? Is that some spam email?" No, isn't. It's not. Cool. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. So, yeah. Saturday before the game, I was nervous. I was really excited because normally I see the players on television. Late evening, midnight, after midnight. But not in person. Never. So, yeah. We drove to St. Thomas Sports Park, the practice facility of the Titans. and got out of the car, went through the main entrance and went to the registration. And the guy was like, "What's your name?" I was like, "My name's Tim. I'm from Germany. Amy invited me." "Ah, you're the guy. You're the only one who's allowed to be here, except family members of the players." I was like, "Really?" "Yes." I was like, "Oh, okay. That's awesome." So we were waiting in the lobby a couple minutes, and then a guy came up and he was like, "Yeah, you can come out. We're going on the practice facility, but no photos, no videos." I was like, "No matter what, I see them in live. I see them right in front of me. I don't need video. I don't need nothing. I don't want to film it. I just want to see them." So I was standing on the sideline. The music started, the players came out, and the practice was about for 1 hour. So after practice, they started to get inside. I was like, "No, no, 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 no. No video, no photo. This is my moment." So I was rushing. I was taking picture with Gerald Casey, Taylor Lewan. I was talking to Marcus Mariota. He's a really, really cool guy, by the way. He's down to earth, a really, really down to earth, cool guy. And yeah, I was talking to them, taking pictures, and then a guy came up to me. He was like, "You're Tim?" I was like, "Yeah. Here, it's for you." I open it, and 2 pre-game field tickets. I was like, "Okay, what's happened now?" And I was looking to the left, and there was Amy Adams Frank. And she gave me a wink. I was like, "Okay." I went to her and she was like, "Hey Tim, how you doing? I hope it's exciting for you. Hope you have fun," and all of that. I was like, "Yeah, it's one of the best moments of my life, actually." She was like, "Yeah, I gave you some pre-game field tickets. Tomorrow, before the game, you can go downstairs on the field and you can enjoy the pre-game show from there." I was like, "Oh man, that's so awesome. Thank you very much." And she was like, "Yeah, I'm coming to Germany 5 times a year to buy horses. I'm a Texas girl, but this is not the end." I was like, "Oh, okay. What is the end?" She was like, "Here." She called one of the trainers and she was like, "He's giving you now a private tour through the facility." I was like, "Okay, that's the cherry on the cake, actually. That's pretty awesome." So I got my cell phone out, started video, and first we went to the bubble, the inside practice hall where they do training when it's rainy or cold outside. And yeah, we were walking through the whole facility. So locker room, everything. And yeah, I met DeMarco Murray. I was talking to them, taking picture. I was in the big conference room where they were watching some stuff. And I'm sorry for bad grammar and wrong vocabulary, but I'm German. I'm allowed to. So yeah, the tour took about a half hour, and after that we went home. I was stunned. I was paralyzed. I was on the phone with my son because my son, he's turning 5 in October. He's a Titans fan as well. So every Sunday when we're watching football, when the game starts at 7 p.m., the early game, he's sitting next to me and he starts chanting, "Go Titans," and "Touchdown Titans," and yeah, whatever. I was on the phone with him. I told my girl and my son everything, and they were happy for me. So the next day, I got up really early again. So we drove to the stadium, did some tailgating with some fans I know, and 1.5 hours before kickoff, I went downstairs on the field and saw Aaron Rodgers. He was walking. He passed me. Delaney Walker, Jordy Nelson, all of them were in front of me. Seeing your favorite team and the team brought you to football, it was the perfect situation for having a great experience. So a couple minutes before the game, I had left the fields. I went to my seats, to my friends, and we had great seats, 15 row behind the Titans bench, and it was a blowout. I think it was 46-24, something like that. The Packers had no chance. The Titans were kick some asses. And yeah, it was the end. Day one, awesome experience, and having the win on day 2. Overall, one of the best experiences in my life. And yeah, half year later, I was sending Amy again a letter. I was saying thank you and everything, and sent her the pictures of me and her and the players. And last Christmas, one day after Christmas, I received a mail from her. She got all the players, signed the pictures from me with them, and it was a perfect after Christmas gift. And now the Titans play in London for the first time. And it's easy for me to access London. It's actually a 1.5 hour flight. 90 euros for me, so $110. It's easy. So we have a fan meetup there of all the Titans from Europe. And some of the US will join as well, and other NFL fans. So if you're listening to this and you're going to London, you have to come to our NFL fan meetup. A lot of Titans, but some other NFL fans too, but you have to come. Go on www.germantitans.eu. It's our website. Everything is in German, but there's news, and on news you will find a Facebook link to our event. The Facebook event, everything is described in English, so don't worry, you can read that. Go on www.germantitans.eu and check out news and the Facebook event for the fan meetup in London. And I'm already in contact with the Titans organization. We will do a documentary from the fan club about the weekend, and probably we will have someone from the Titans join as well. I hope so. But yeah, it will be fun. So thank you, Arnie, for having me on the show. And I wish you great success with your podcast. And thank you again. Have a nice one.
So first of all, that is so cool that the owner of an NFL team would reach out to a fan and say, hey, come on down. We'll take care of you. And then they get there, and then the owner does even more. It's like just the rewards keep coming. And then, of course, the Christmas thing. It's like, man, that is so cool that an NFL owner would take time out to be able to do that for the fan. Not to mention, a dude halfway around the world comes to our country to be able to enjoy the NFL. And I'd like to say good luck to Tim when they go over to London to watch their Titans play. And they do have a meetup. So like he said, if you're going to go to London to watch the game, especially if you're, German speaking and you're a Titans fan, they have a website. It is germantitans.eu. And their Twitter is germantitans_EV. And probably the best way to do it is if you have questions, go ahead and hit this guy up. He is the chairman of the German Titans. His name is Tim Leidinger. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Football History Dude and were able to get inspired by the unique stories told today by fans of the great game of football. If you would like to have your favorite football moment featured on an upcoming episode, please head over to myfootballmoment.com for more details. Now in the next episode, we're going to go back to the beginning again to finally tell the story of the man that was possibly America's first worldwide superstar athlete, Mr. Jim Thorpe.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football History Dude. To make sure you're the first to get the next episode, please subscribe on your podcast player of choice and head on over to thefootballhistorydude.com for the show notes and more information on the history of the NFL. And remember, dudes, where we're going, we don't need roads.
We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.